In this today's lecture, we will discuss about the selection rules of beta decay. And in this Fermi selection rule and Gambo-Taylor selection rule, that is known as GT rule, we will discuss about the allowed and forbidden beta transitions. And then we will do some numerical problems, and you will get the idea. So which transition are allowed transition and which are forbidden transitions. And then we will start our discussion about the gamma decay, and then we will discuss in detail about the selection rules of gamma decay and how we can find out about the electrical and magnetic dipole quadrupole transitions within this gamma decay. So let's start our today's lecture. So in this beta transition, we generally know that the beta decay lifetimes they fell into two categories. So according to the transitions which are broadly divided into allowed and forbidden transitions. So the transitions they are being governed by some selection rules. So these selection rules they have been governed by the Fermi theory of beta decay, and in this selection rules, we generally find the total angular momentum or the spin of the nucleons. So that is the sum of orbital and spin angular momentum. So in this selection rule, so you will see that only allowed transitions are those transitions in which there is no any change of angular momentum. So the value of delta L that is equal to 0. So in both the cases. Now if you talk about the total delta I value, so total angular momentum, so that is the final state I value minus the initial state I value, and this delta I we generally calculate with the change in delta L plus change in delta S value. Now in these allowed transitions, so this is the key point. So if any transition is given and if there is no change of delta L value from initial to final state or from parent to daughter nuclei, then you can get the idea that this is a allowed transition. And now moving toward the second step. Now the second step is these emitted electron and neutrino particle. Now their spin is quite important. If these electrons and the anti-neutrino, they are coming having anti-parallel spin. So you can see that. So when these electron and anti-neutrino, so they are having anti-parallel spin. So their spin, because both are fermions having half integral spin, one is having plus half and another is having minus half. So they both cancel with each other and the total change in spin is equal to 0. And that transition is known as the Fermi transition. So those transitions in which the emitted electron and anti-neutrino, so they are coming anti-parallel, and those transitions are governed by Fermi rule. And if they are coming parallel, so here if these electron and anti-neutrino, so they are coming parallel, so suppose they are having up spin, then the total delta I, total delta S, that is equal to 1. So this is known as the triplet state of transition. So in this triplet state, the value of this delta I, which is equal to delta L plus delta S, now delta L is equal to 0. So the delta I value, it is completely dependent upon the value of delta S. So for the delta I value, only 0 and plus minus y 1, so that is the triplet state transitions. If there are, then those are followed by Gambo-Taylor rule. So in this you can see that if the spin is anti-parallel, then it is governed by the Fermi transition or it is governed by Fermi rule. And if the total spin it is equal to 1, that is having electron and anti-neutrino, they are parallel spin, then they are having the triplet state transition whose delta I value is equal to 0 or plus minus 1. So, and in this case, there is no change in parity. So parity we generally find out with the value of -1 the power L. Now L is change in angular momentum. We know that in the allowed transition delta L is equal to 0. So when there is no change in angular momentum, so there is no change in parity. So there is no change in parity. So in the allowed transition, so the how we can identify the transition. So if there is delta I of the order of 0 or plus minus 1, and if there is no change in parity, then those transitions are known as allowed transitions. So there is no change in parity. So again, the allowed transitions, they are further divided into super allowed transitions and the normal allowed transitions. Now, if the total spin of the parent nucleus and the total spin of the daughter nucleus, if the transition is occurring within the same subshell. So for example, the last unpaired nucleon of this parent nucleus, it is in the s orbital, and of the daughter nucleus it is again in the s orbital. So these type of transitions are known as super allowed transitions, and they are very quick. So most frequent type of transitions, so which are having very half-life period is very less, so they are very quick transitions, and those transitions are known as super allowed transitions. Again, this is one more example. So this is the last unpaired nucleon, the ground state spin is p3 by 2, and after the beta particle emission, so again the daughter nucleus, it is again in the 3 by 2. So these type of examples, they are known as the super allowed transitions. And second, the normal allowed or the unfavored transitions. So here super transitions are also known as favored transitions. Favored transitions. And normal transitions or normal allowed transitions are known as unfavored transition. So they are not so quick, they occur, but it depends upon the excited state of the particle, so whether this transition will happen and what will be the lifetime period, and it is dependent upon the comparative half-life period. Comparative half-life periods. So in this case, you can see that the total spin, it is being changed by 1. So the particle, they are in the same orbital, in the p orbital, but their spin value, it is decreased by 1. It is decreased from 3 by 2 to -1 by 2. So there is delta J, which is of the order of change in 1. So these type of transitions are known as unfavored transitions, and it is dependent upon the comparative half-life. So let us do an example. Now in this example, so tritium, it is being converted into helium, and along with that, the beta particle is coming out and the antineutrino, it is coming out. Now you find out in this tritium there is 1 proton and 2 neutron. So using this shell model, we can find out the total spin of this particle, which is due to this last unpaired proton, and its value is 1s1 by 2. So the J value, it is coming out to be 1 by 2, and since it is in the s orbital, so we can find out the value of L from 0, 1, 2, 3. And if the nucleon, it is in the s orbital, then the value of L is 0. If it is in the p orbital, then L is 1. And if it is in the d orbital, f orbital, so based on this L value, we can find out the parity. So parity is -1 L. So here, since it is in the s orbital, L value is 0, so it is having a positive parity. And this helium, now you can see it is having 2 proton and 1 neutron, and its ground state spin is the same as that of the parent nucleus. So J value is 1 by 2 plus. So here, this is the key point. So how we can find out whether it is the Fermi allowed transition, whether it is the GT allowed transition, or whether it is allowed for both, and they are also known as the mixed transitions. So you can see that the value of delta J, so it is from 1 by 2 plus to 1 by 2 plus. So delta J, if you can comparing less than equal to 1 L, so here L is 0, so 0 it is equal to 0, and it is satisfying this rule, so it is allowed for Fermi rule. And similarly you can calculate the value of delta J, which should be less than equal to L plus 1, and J, its value is coming less than 1, so it is again allowed for Gambo-Taylor rule. So this is a mixed transition. Mixed transition means it is allowed for both, allowed for F rule as well as for GT rule. So let us do one another example related to this. Now in this case, it is sulfur 1635, and it is being decayed into chlorine with the emission of beta particle and antineutrino. Now you can calculate its spin. So sulfur, which is having 16 proton, and so 19 neutron. So it is having 19 neutron and 16 proton. So the total spin will be due to the last unpaired neutron, and using the shell model you can calculate it: 1s1 by 2, 1p3 by 2, 1p1 by 2, then it is in the d orbital 1d5 by 2, then it is in 2s 1 by 2, and it is in the 1d3 by 2. So you can calculate total number of nucleons. So from that is equal to 2j plus 1. So 2 nucleons will be in this, 4 in this, again 2 in this, 6 in this, 2 in this. So we have 19. So we can count 2 plus 4, 6, plus 2, 8, 8 plus 6, 14, 14 plus 2, 16, and last will be lie in this 1d3 by 2. So S1635 has 3 by 2 plus ground state spin and parity. So since it is in the d orbital, so L value for d is 2, so it is having a even parity. So you can see here it is 3 by 2 plus. So similarly you can see for chlorine, and it is coming again 3 by 2 plus. So here the value of delta Z, so that is equal to 0. So and parity is also same. So here is even parity, here it is even parity. So there is no change in parity. So again, you can follow those Fermi rules. So the value of J should be less than equal to L for the F rule, and delta J, it should be less than equal to L plus 1. So for the GT rule. So here L, since they are in the d orbital, so L value is 2. So delta J, it is less than equal to 2, and here it is less than equal to 3. So it is satisfying for both the cases. So it is a allowed transition, allowed for both. So it is a mixed transition. So this is how you can solve such type of numerical problems. And these transitions, whether it is a allowed transitions, whether it is a first order forbidden or second order forbidden, and it is dependent upon the value of comparative half-life. So comparative half-life generally we find out from the transition probability using the Fermi theory, but the comparative half-life, so which is dependent upon a function fnm into tau 1 by 2. So where tau is known as the half-life period, and Fn function, which is dependent upon the density of states and the matrix element of this Fermi theory, and this value should be a constant for a particular reaction, and this value it is different for different reactions, and Fn into tau 1 by 2, and this decides, and if the value of this comparative half-life it is lie between 2.3 to 3.7, then those transitions are known as super allowed transitions. And as the value of this comparative half-life increases, and due to this increase in value of this comparative half-life, so the value of this matrix element it is inversely proportional to this comparative half-life, so more will be the half-life period and lesser will be the probability for the reaction to occur. So similarly, if the comparative half-life it is between 6 to 10, then those transitions are known as first order, and for this case it is second order. And so forbidden transitions, they are very rare. So they happen in certain situations, but they are very rare transitions. And it depends upon what type of beta or alpha particle they are starting these type of transitions. So these are some of the examples you can check by calculating for the each case. So 0 to 0 transitions, they are generally Fermi transitions, while all these cases they are for the Gambo-Teller transitions, and these cases they are the mixed transitions. So this is your homework. You can calculate, find out the value of J and how it is being changing, and from that you can get the idea whether these transitions they are only Fermi allowed transitions but forbidden for GT rule. So this is only allowed for Fermi transition but forbidden for GT transition. These transitions they are only allowed for GT transition but forbidden for Fermi transition, and these are allowed for both Fermi and GT transitions. So let us do about the forbidden transitions. Now in the allowed transitions we have seen that the parent and daughter nuclei they are in the same orbital angular momentum, and for the allowed transition delta L is equal to 0. But for forbidden transition delta L value it is being changed. So particle it is after the transition its orbital angular momentum it is being changed with L that is equal to 1, and those are known as the first order transitions. So for first order transitions same rule applies. So if it is electron and antineutrino that is having anti-parallel spin and they are satisfying this condition, and they are known as the first order Fermi allowed transitions, and if they are satisfying this J value, and they are known as first order GT transitions. And there are cases which satisfy both type of transitions, and they are known as first order mixed transitions. So these are some of the examples you can calculate. So here one more thing is, so here parity gets changed because L is being changed now. So the identification of forbidden transition is if the parity is being changed, and from that you can see that in the allowed transition there is no change in parity, while in first order forbidden transition there is a change in parity. So these are some of the examples you can see that. So they are first order forbidden transitions. So let us do another example of this forbidden transition, and you can see that it is for sulfur 1637, and it is being converted into chlorine with the emission of beta particle and antineutrino. Now in this case you can see that it is having 16 proton, and 21 neutron. So you can calculate. So it is coming in the, I will write it here, 1s1 by 2, 1p3 by 2, 1p1 by 2, 1d5 by 2, then it is in the 2s, then it is in the 1d3 by 2, and it is in the 1f7 by 2. 2, 4, 2, 6, 2, 4, and in this there are 8. So let us count. We require 21, 6, 8, 14, 16, 20, and last 21 will be in the 1f7 by 2 state. So its J value is 7 by 2, and since it is in the f orbital, so FL is equal to 3 for this case. So when L is 3, so parity will be equal to minus parity. So its ground state spin will be equal to 7 by 2 minus. And similarly, you can calculate for this 1737, here proton are 17, neutron are 20. So we will calculate the spin for this last unpaired proton, and 17 proton, it will lie in 1d3 by t. So this will lie in 1d3 by 2 state. So there is a transition. So for d orbital, so L is 2, so it is having a plus parity. So you can see that in this reaction, so it is being transition from J value from 7 by 2 minus to 3 by 2 plus. So there is a change in parity. So if there is a change in parity, it satisfies that it is not a allowed transition. Now we have to check whether it is a first order transition, forbidden transition, second order transition, and so and so. So here you can see in this, the particle, it is in the 1f7 by 2 state, and it is in the f orbital, and here it is in the d orbital.
Hello, sir.
It is being changed. About the first order forbidden transition, so delta L value is coming 1, so total J is 2, therefore delta S is equal to 1. So what does it mean? So it is both the particle, they are having parallel spin, so therefore delta S is 1. So this is a purely GT transition. So this is a purely GT first order forbidden transition. So do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because this is very important, you need to calculate. So you should have understand how you can calculate in order to find the allowed transition or a forbidden transition. So similarly, you can calculate for the forbidden second order forbidden transition. So in the second order forbidden transition, delta L value, it is being changed by 2, and again there is a no change in parity. So parity concept is something like this. So for allowed transition, there is no change in parity. For first order forbidden, so there is change in parity. For second order, there is no change. Similarly, for third order forbidden, so there is a change. So parity, it is being vice versa for alternative types. So similarly, for fourth order forbidden transition, there is no change in parity. So you can understand. So for second order, there is no change in parity, and similarly, so those transitions which follow the value of J, so that is changed by plus minus 1 or plus minus 2, and they are satisfying the second order Fermi forbidden transition, and similarly which satisfying the change in value of J for +-2 to +-3, and they are satisfying the second order GT forbidden transition. And there is no change in parity. So these are some of the examples. So this is another example you can solve. And in this case, the beryllium, so it is being converted into boron. So beryllium, it is having even number of proton and even number of neutron. So its J value, it is 0. So similarly for boron, using the Nordam rule, and as I have explained you using this Nordam rule, so you have to sum of Jp, Jn plus Lp plus Ln, and if it is coming out, then you have to keep the value of Jp plus Jn, and if it is coming even, and you have to keep Jp minus Jn. So this is how you can find using the Nordam rule for odd nuclei. So this is an example of odd nuclei, and when you solve this, so its total J value, it is coming 3+. So delta J here is 3. So delta J here is 3, and when you see that it is a purely GT transition, because J value for GT, it is between +2 minus +3. So I will go to this previous slide. So delta J, there is only change for +-3 for the GT transition. So this is a purely GT second order forbidden transition. So let us do some another important problems. So an example is given: a spin half particle A undergo this decay and it is being converted into B plus C plus D. When it is known that B and C, they are having half integral spin, so A is having half, B is having half, C is having half, then the complete set of allowed value of the spin value of this D particle. So as we have studied in the beta minus and beta plus decay, so their total spin angular momentum, it should be conserved. So if it is having the half integral spin on the left hand side, then it should be having the half integral spin along the right hand side in order to have the conservation of total angular momentum. So the only value for which D can have, that is of the order of 1/2. So the correct option for this question is 1/2. So since the spin of this left side and the combined spin of the product on the right side, it must be same to conserve the total angular momentum spin. So that's why the only value of this D, which is having the half integral spin, in order to have the conservation, follow the conservation law. So next example is, considering these 4 processes, which of the above are forbidden for free particle? Now, if you look at this first example, P plus or proton, it is being decayed into neutron plus positron plus neutrino. And if you are talking about this free particle, so free proton, it cannot decay into this reaction. So this reaction, it is only possible within the nucleus where protons are bound. So for free proton, it is not possible because the mass of proton, it is less than mass of neutron. How a particle, it can decay into another particle whose mass is greater than its mass. So this reaction for free proton, it is not conserved. So proton can decay to neutron only inside the nucleus. So where there is a written free particle, then it is violated. So make it sure, so whether the correct notation is being given. So second type of particle, so it is again not allowed because the charge is not conserved in this case. So when you compare the charge on the before the reaction and after the reaction, so it is the total charge, it is not conserved. So it is again a forbidden transition. So first is forbidden, first can be the option, second is also forbidden, and third, pi plus, it is being decayed into electron plus and neutrino. So this is which we are talking about, how these bosons, they are being decayed, because this beta decay process, it is a three-way process. Beta decay, it is a three-way process, because before the formation of this electron, so there is another particle which is being formed, that is known as the pi boson. So this is allowed transition for weak interaction. So this is a allowed transition for weak interaction, and it has been observed in this cosmic rays. So this reaction, it is observed in the cosmic rays. So it is due to this weak interaction. And the fourth interaction, this is again a allowed transition through electromagnetic interaction. So this is through the electromagnetic transition. So neutral particles, when it is being decayed, so there is formation of gamma radiations. So this is due to the electromagnetic transition, it is allowed. So this is also allowed. So we have to find the forbidden transition. So correct option is option D, which is saying 1 and 2. So next question is, in the beta decay process, the transition 2 plus to 3 plus, it is allowed for Fermi as well as for GT rule. It is allowed by Fermi but not by GT rule. It is not allowed by Fermi but allowed by GT rule, and it is not allowed by both Fermi and GT rule. So as I have already explained you, so it is a transition from plus 2 to 3 plus. So you can see which is being changed by 1. So when delta is changed by 1, so what does it means? So for allowed transition, we know delta L is 0 and delta S is 1 only in the case of GT transition, because Fermi rule. So total J, it is coming 1. So total J is a sum of delta L plus delta S. Delta L, we know it is being 0. So what does it means? So only J value, it is coming through delta S value. So delta S coming out to be 1. So 1 is when both these particles, they are having parallel spin. So this is a allowed transition for GT rule, but it is not allowed for Fermi rule. So option C is the correct option for this problem, and this is the GATE 2013 question.
So this is all about for today's lecture. So in this lecture I have give you the brief explanation about the beta decay and what type of allowed and forbidden transitions which can be possible in these transitions. And in the next lecture we will discuss about the expression of Fermi theory of beta decay, and then we will discuss about the comparative half-life and do some important numerical problems related with this beta decay. So till then, goodbye, see you in the next lecture.